Welcome back. This is Matt Alba and Rich Gannon for the Park Sportsbook app. Rich, what a week in football. That was probably the four most exciting games I've watched in a long time last weekend, setting the stage for a really great divisional conference championship. Let's first talk about the AFC. Bengals and Chiefs, these teams are familiar. So week 17, Bengals were able to topple, the reigning champs here. Do you think that Joe Burrow is going to be able to have a similar performance and, take on Mahomes and Andy Reid at home and win this game?
I don't know about winning the game, Matt. I think Joe Burrow will play well if history tells us anything. I mean, this has been a different Cincinnati franchise. The moment he walked in the door, he played in 10 games last year. They're much more competitive. It's really been a Cinderella story this year when you look at what the Bengals were able to accomplish, winning the division and, of course, winning a road playoff game for the first time in franchise history. And then doing it in a fashion that was quite incredible when you consider that Joe Burrow was sacked 9 times by that Tennessee Titans defense. This guy is tough. He's durable. He's got grit. I mean, he's got all the intangibles that you love at that position, Matt. And he also has some playmakers to work with around him, including Jamar Chase, who I think is going to be the NFL's Offensive Rookie of the Year. My concern is they have a mediocre offensive line, one that yielded 9 sacks last week to the Tennessee Titans. Steve Spagnuolo, the defensive coordinator of the Kansas City Chiefs, is going to come after him. They're going to bring a lot of pressure. They're going to challenge that offensive line with their defensive line. Chris Jones, of course, a Pro Bowl player. They've got good perimeter players as well that can rush and be effective and get him off the spot. That's going to be the key. I like the Chiefs at home. I think the Chiefs are playing as well as any team in football right now. When you look at what they've done, winning 11 of the last 12 games, Patrick Mahomes is back to playing like he did when he was the MVP of the league. I think it'll be a close game. I think Joe Burrow keeps him in it, Matt. But I worry a little bit about their defense being able to hold up, and also their offensive line, which I think is an offensive line that needs a lot of attention in the offseason.
Yeah, for sure. And, you did mention Andy Reid. He's obviously been here time and time again in these conference championship games. But he did say this week that, that week 17 game wasn't a fluke. Talking to the media this week, he said that, the Bengals, they made big plays on both sides of the ball. They were able to slow them down on the offensive side. What are the Andy Reid intangibles that, differentiate him, from amongst, all the other coaches in the league?
I think I don't want to say there's some similarities because Zach Taylor has a ways to go, Matt, but Zach's very involved in the overall game plan. He calls the plays on Sundays a lot like Andy Reid. So they can control the tempo and the pace of the game offensively. That's important to them. And they've got great young quarterbacks that they can feel really comfortable with for the next decade. That's a great situation if you're an NFL head coach. When you look at the volatility, we got 9 head coaches or teams that are looking for head coaches. That's incredible. Last year we had 7 or 8. I mean, it's about a quarter of the league every year. And the reason why is because you don't have the trigger. You don't have that franchise quarterback. All these teams that are firing coaches don't have quarterbacks. Yeah. So if you're Zach Taylor and you got Joe Burrow, you feel pretty good sleeping at night for 7 or 8 years. If you're Andy Reid, why would you retire? You got Patrick Mahomes. So it's a great luxury. And I would just say that, these are coaches that have been in big games. Certainly Andy Reid has been in a lot more big games. But you look at Zach Taylor, he's been really impressive, Matt. I'm sure he's going to get some votes for Coach of the Year when you look at what he's done in Cincinnati. Cincinnati is not an easy place to win. No. You've got limited resources. You got the facilities that are worse than in the NFL. And yet to look at what they've done this year, and I've said it, I've been telling you this from week 1. This is not your same Cincinnati Bengals. This is a different football team with Joe Burrow under center.